Well, I am just delighted to welcome Howard Caesar for this interview today, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to have this conversation. And I don't think for many of you he needs an introduction. For most people who are watching this, they know exactly who he is. But I want to take just a moment for those who may not know Howard, who are new to our community or just joining us online. I want to give you a few highlights of who he is, or some of his accomplishments. Howard is one of the most honored and celebrated leaders in the history of the New Thought movement. He's received just about every honor and award that our organizations give, including the Light of God Expressing Award in 2005, which is the highest honor given by Unity. He served as a pulpit minister for 41 years, including 34 years right here at Unity of Houston. He is a founding member of the Association for Global New Thought, which is an amazing organization. And just speaking to him, he was a part of a big event they had on Friday with some of those original members and other current leaders. He has also worked with and is considered a friend, a personal friend, by many of the great thinkers and authors and speakers who have helped evolve human consciousness, people like Deepak Chopra, John Bradshaw, Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, just to name a few. He's also an author in his own right. His book is called 1 + 1 is 1, and he is now traveling the world, speaking and teaching on this topic and others. I had the great honor of working with Howard side by side for over 6 years, and then to follow him in this role as leader for our community at Unity of Houston. He's a great teacher and a great friend. Welcome, Howard Caesar.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be with you. Great to connect with you, and I love you. Loved working with you, and I just think the world of you. You're such a talented guy, doing such a great job. I'm very proud of you.
Well, thank you. I love you too. Thank you. I do have some topics I want to cover in our brief conversation today. I don't want to take too much of your time, but before that, just tell us how you're doing. How is Diane? I know we all miss her as well as you. And how are your kids and grandkids doing?
We're doing really well. I'm doing wonderful. All's well, feeling healthy, been bigger, lost about 8 pounds actually.
That's great.
Feels good. My wife Diane is doing great. We walk together every morning and sometimes another afternoon walk. Actually, she's doing 10 miles a day. I'm doing about 3.5. So we're enjoying that. Our grandkids are all great. We FaceTime, thank God for that. Staying connected. Our children are doing good. Our son did have the virus actually, and was able to rebound. It took him about a week to get through that. And as far as Diane goes, actually, she's you can hold prayers for her mother. She's in a nursing home, and it's been really hard on her. She has some dementia. She doesn't understand. We're not able to visit or share with her or anything like that. So that's been a hard element for Diane a bit. But all in all, we're doing great, and lots of love to.
Speaking to one of our members. Good. That same thing. I was just talking to a mutual friend of ours, Robert Thomas. His son of Otis Thomas, and they're able, where Peggy is the center where she is, they're able to bring her out to the front door, and they're able to walk out and at least see her. But it's hard for their family too.
Yeah.
Well, so what are you learning during this strange time that we're in, Howard Caesar? What are the lessons your soul is gaining from it? Do you have anything you can share with us?
Well, I'm learning things about myself, certainly, and seeing how when I react and when I respond because of what is happening. So I think it's again, another element of going deeper within myself. Certainly this is, like I like to say, this is life and death, no question about it. We've lost loved ones and family members and friends around the country and the world, but it's also about life and depth for me. So I look at it as, how can I go deeper in regard to what is happening for individuals, but also for the collective, because I think there's the bigger picture that we stand back and observe on. That people are having an opportunity to perhaps develop a new worldview, that this is an opportunity to reevaluate their belief systems, what they know to be true or what they've been rigid in and what they need to soften in, and perhaps go more to the heart, feel like they're more connected really to other parts of humanity. I'm about oneness in a big way. So I think there are elements of opportunity to move toward oneness in this, even though we have seemingly been separated physically having to have stay at home and 6 feet apart and wear masks that we sometimes can't recognize one another.
Right.
But even with that physical kind of separation, I think it's making people understand how much they hunger for community, for being with one another, and how important connection is. So I'm learning about myself as I observe what's taking place, and I'm learning about others. I just so admire how many heroes have been showing up in the health work that they've been doing in hospitals, and care workers, and many others who are responding and volunteering and helping. It's just wonderful to see that, how people are rising to the occasion to do what they can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's we're seeing the same thing, that they're just
Yeah.
while some of the things that we've just taken for granted, we now really cherish and are looking forward to getting back to. We're learning what's important. And I would tell you, those of us who are really invested in being a part of a spiritual community, this time has been particularly hard. I think that we don't know when we're going to be opened up again for public services, but there are a lot of people waiting to get some hugs. I know that.
Yes, and one of the things that is key, I think certain people are being hit harder than others by this. Some people
Yes.
have reserves and have more prosperity around them that they can fall back on. Others are sometimes paycheck to paycheck. Michael Beckwith said something about some people are in 5-star quarantine and some are in no or 1/2-star quarantine situations. So it's certainly more stressful for some than others.
We're really looking at that at the church, both our Unity and the Community group, which are the ones who do service work out in the city of Houston, and also our Healing the Heart of America. Both are looking at the inequality, the inequities of our culture right now. So a lot of things are getting magnified in this time, for sure.
Yeah, it's part of the worldview changing, really, so that new actions and structures can put in place to help all that.
Yeah. So I want to turn it just for a moment. We're going to be, we're launching a new series for May. It's called The Realization of Spirit, how we make God realize, how we take these spiritual teachings and truth and put them into practice and into action and into form in our lives. And this first week, I'm going to be talking about our vocation, but our gift of service, just the ways that we show up. And one of the things that I got to watch you pretty closely for those years that we worked together, Howard, and I noticed that when you were faced with a big decision for yourself or for our organization, I would hear you use the phrase, "I feel guided." And then that I always watched you, that there was something that you were plugging into that was more than just the information you were getting from your senses. And I think as we're trying to figure out or discern how we are to be in the world and what we are to do, I think that's really important. I wondered if you would share with us what that guidance is for you and how you get in touch with it.
Happy to, Michael. It's a big part of my life. And, I really believe that we have an internal guidance system that we can access. I grew up in a traditional church, and I went through confirmation, and we would get a confirmation Bible verse, and we didn't know what it was. We didn't get to select it. It just got given to us in an envelope. And mine was, "Ask and it shall be given to you, seek and you shall find, and knock and the door shall be opened unto you." And that he went deep with me from the time I was an 8th grader and got that verse. And it stayed with me all my life, that I have continued to ask and to seek and to knock at that door. And I think the more you knock at the door and the more you open it, it begins to stay open.
Mm-hmm.
There's familiarity. There's that still small voice, that inner voice of spirit that speaks to us. And it's beyond thought. It can be intuition. It can come in spontaneously in a moment, but it doesn't originate with thought. It comes from something higher, beyond oneself. And so it can be an intuition. I really think that the confirmation is within our feeling nature, within our heart intelligence. And so you can know momentarily sometimes that I'm feeling guided to do this, or it's this direction or that direction. But our feelings are our gurus. And if it takes me to a feeling of expansiveness and calmness and just goodness and life-givingness. I know it's from spirit. And then there are other times where I like to have as much time as I can.
Yeah.
I used to tell the staff, I like to have a lot of options.
Yeah, that's right.
Each option. And I just, look at each one and then see which one gives me life, which one takes the heart, which is expansive, which is contracting, a little bit fearful. And so I weigh that. Sometimes I go to bed and ask that I really know in the morning if it's a big decision. So it's a continuing, ongoing process, but it's just having the conviction that there is always an answer to every question. There's always a solution to every problem, and that the universe is there as your partner, seeking to guide you through whatever is put in front of you. And there is something greater in you than any circumstance you can face. And so I haven't always gotten it right. Sometimes I had to edit a decision or change course a little bit on the way. But that's part of being human and part of life. And but we always want to do what's best for everyone.
That's great. I think that there's something about us that I guess it's the egoic mind, maybe the earthbound mind that really wants to have it all lined up and know what's coming and have all of our ducks in a row and have it all planned out. But that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about tapping into something beyond what the senses perceive and can understand. And I've kind of learned, like you, that if I just rely on what's in front of me, then I'm missing huge opportunities, because spirit sees around corners where my senses can't. And that's the thing I wanted to talk about too a little bit, that many times the plans that we've laid out for ourselves, for our organizations, are really based upon things continuing pretty much as they've been. And now we've had this huge disruption in our world, and it's affecting pretty much every system, our financial systems, our the way we interact with one another. It even affects the way we buy groceries, and we can't get our hair cut, things like that.
Right.
And so what I ask you is, do you have any advice for us as we navigate uncertain times when our plans are not working out the way we thought? How do we trust spirit when we thought we were going in a certain direction and then it changes? Do you have any experience with that, Howard Caesar?
Well, I used to say, and you still remember, once in a while I'd say to the staff, I don't like surprises.
Right. I have heard you say that.
Yeah. And really, it's because I like to have things planned out. I know I like to, have a sense of what's coming next. And so it's just human nature to want to know the known. And I think times where we have to trust and go with the flow, because there are big elements of unknown. Where do we go from here? Individually in our lives, as people are facing really extreme challenges economically and in various other ways, but also the world itself. So I think a key is really looking at where you're rigid. Where you are tending to be frozen and stuck, and perception also. What perceptions have we gotten stuck in terms of a worldview, ourself, our relationship with life, the world, others, what life is supposed to look like, how we've showed up, all of that, because we are really writing our story. And I believe that, once perception changes, everything changes. There's a whole shift in the energy. And so I just really feel that we're at a crossroads. I think it was Eckhart Tolle who said, awakening is no longer a luxury.
Right.
Basically, it's time to really go deeper and have a reorientation of one's own inner self, listening more, being more flexible, seeing where we were stuck in certain perspectives, ideas, beliefs that have maybe separated ourselves from ourself, from our higher self, from each other, and reevaluating some of those. And I think, because spirit knows within us what's next on our curriculum of growth. We're here to, Earth is a school, and we're all in the same classroom right now with this pandemic. And so if we just are willing to be open to say, Spirit, what is here for me to learn in this? And what is the contribution I can make? And another big part for me is that we're all part of a collective. And what we're facing, I think, is certainly affecting us individually, but it's come as a result of either low or high consciousness going on in the collective. And so no one is left out in having to deal with how they're responding to this. I personally, rather than go to fear, I'm going to respect. I respect that this is out there. And I also respect the science and those who are in the know that are giving me guardrails as to how best to protect myself in that regard, externally, where to go, where not to go, what to take, what not to take, these kinds of things. But then ultimately, I'm left with myself internally and my God as to the story that's being written in this chapter of my life. And I know at some point, we're all going to turn the page into the next chapter, and there will be light shining again very brightly on all.
I love that you said that. And, Howard, I know you have a deep connection to nature, and you feel a deep spiritual connection there. And I just want to share with you this morning, after the storms ended in our new house. I haven't had you and Diane over here yet, but we will when we're able to do that again. We have a rooftop deck up on the 4th floor, and we're close to downtown. And so I was up there this morning, and the rain had stopped and everything was cool. And there's that brilliant bright green of spring that we have in the trees, but everything seems so clean and clear. And it just gave me this deep sense that the storm that we're going through will pass, that everything in the world of time, space, and form is of a season. And there was such a sense of openness and aliveness and possibility just a few minutes ago up on my roof. And I don't know, I've been very inspired by seeing the images of the pollution going away and the views of the mountains. And I thought that would probably move you. But any sense of maybe any vision or thought about what's on the other side of this thing we're in for the larger group, for our unity or New Thought movement, or for the world? Any hints for what's coming from you?
Well, I think New Thought really plays an important role because the message that we bring is one of inclusivity.
Yes.
It's also one of accepting one and all. Is, I think, the most all-embracing of the spiritual paths that are out there. Not the only one, but one of the most powerful. It's what drew me to unity and to New Thought also. It sought not to judge another, but to respect each other's path, where a person was, recognizing they have their belief systems. We may not agree with them, but still they are a spiritual being. They're on the path. They're trying to figure it out. We're all one family, brothers and sisters. I don't care what race, what color, what path we've chosen. We're all one, and I love that truth. And I believe that, the world is moving and meant to be moving. I mean, the universe is alive with consciousness, and consciousness says, if consciousness were a person, it would say, I, consciousness, am that.
Yeah. So
my consciousness would say, I'm that. I'm prosperity and abundance. And because my consciousness says that and is that, so be it. Yeah. If my consciousness says lack, we're never going to get out of this economically, it's going to be forever or whatever, then consciousness says to me, so be it. Mm-hmm. The way consciousness in the universe works. However, I believe that consciousness and spirit, in working through consciousness, always moving us forward, onward, upward, higher.
Evolving.
Mm-hmm. And therefore, there's something good that is emerging, wanting to happen. Just in our lives, no matter what crisis or chaos we go through, something good is trying to emerge. And if we can just see that, and I really have a conviction that that is unfolding. How long it'll take for humanity to make the changes here, there, and what have you, individually and collectively, I don't know. I can't predict that. But I do know that the decisions, the opportunities are there. And I really believe that something good is happening and will happen down the road. That we don't want other people to be hurting like they are hurting. And there may be, again, more heart coming that transcends the mind. Because the mind tends to separate, where judgment goes up, love goes down. And where judgment goes down, love goes up.
Yes.
If we can get away from judging one another and allowing the mind to dictate, because the mind tends to oftentimes separate, compare, good, bad, right, wrong, what have you. Just if we get beyond that and just love one another, I believe I'm an optimist.
Me too. And I think that by just simply holding that positive sense that something good is emerging from this, that we become part of the collective evolution of human consciousness. And it's our job to see that possibility.
And to your question, Michael, you're doing a great job. You're streaming, you're gathering a larger audience. Again, the role of New Thought and what you're doing and others like you is so valuable and so important at a time like this. People are looking for inspiration. They're looking to be steered and guided, and they want that. They want to be fed and nourished. And you and others like you are doing it and play such an important role.
Well, thank you, Howard. This has been so great. So we are trusting that we will be back to having public services in July. We've got Howard scheduled to come to Unity of Houston in the middle of July to come give us a message, as he often does. And we'll keep you posted on that, everyone out there. Thank you, Howard, so much for your time, for your wisdom, for your love of our organization, for our community. Our richest blessings upon you and your work and your beautiful family.
Love, peace, and blessings to you, Michael, and to all of New Thought and the world as a whole. Blessings. Thank you. Thanks for